Now, in the Renaissance, we have to deal with theater as well. And while the Italian Renaissance is continuing with a lot of the morality and passion plays they're carrying over from the medieval, in Northern Europe, things are changing, especially in England, with a man by the name of Shakespeare, who will write plays for over 20 years, or over a 20-year period. And he writes three genres of plays: the comedies, the tragedies, and the histories. The tragedies are the ones that a lot of people are the most familiar with. This is Hamlet or Romeo and Juliet, of course, with an unhappy ending, especially if you happen to be a teenager in a Shakespeare play. It seems to be kind of a fatal spot to be. He also writes comedies, which today we don't find particularly funny, but they do have a happy ending, things like Midsummer Night's Dream. Now he has a third set that he writes, the histories, that people aren't as familiar with. Now, these histories are not written to be historically accurate. In fact, they're far from it. The ideas we get from the histories are because Shakespeare is writing for the Tudors in Tudor England. And as such, he's writing to make the Tudors look better and their predecessors look worse, which is what's happening in most of the histories. They're really serving as propaganda for the Tudor rulers of England at the time. So you need to be careful when you're looking at his histories because they are not intended to be accurate. He is thought of as the most predominant playwright in the West. And in fact, today we still have high schoolers. They're forced to read Shakespeare, although today there is a movement afoot to force high schoolers to read it in a modified, sort of a translated, I'm doing air quotes, you can't see that, but a more translated form that people will find more easy to understand. The authorship is also a problem. You see, there are a lot of scholars who either don't believe Shakespeare was a person, it may have been a pen name, they also believe that Shakespeare may have gotten help. And they look to Francis Bacon or Christopher Marlowe as two possibilities for this. It's a theory that floats out there that comes back every so often, becomes popular again, but has yet to be proven. And we've been working on this for hundreds of years. So take that as you will. Which brings us to Renaissance music. Now, the beauty of Renaissance music is, unlike chant, which we briefly talked about, where we know the words, but we don't necessarily know what it sounded like back then, in the Renaissance, we now have notation. And this is a standardized form of notation that is still legible today, which means we know what the music sounds like. And this is music to eat a turkey leg to. At least that's always been my impression. So the focus here is on expressing text. So there will be words, but the words are the focus. This is, in a lot of ways, sung poetry. The music will become increasingly vocal, and they're trying to fit the music to the text. So if you have a phrase that describes someone descending a staircase, then you will have the music descending through the scale. They avoid extremes. There's no real extreme contrast in tone, melody, or color. And generally the music is polyphonic. Now, when you look at Renaissance music, it's very much music that we would associate with the background. It's music that you don't really go to see the show. It's music that's playing while you're doing something else, probably while you're eating or something along those lines. That's probably not that far from the truth. Now, most of the music is religious, but you're going to see secular music as well in the form of the madrigal, which saw its development. And this is a poem written for 4 to 5 voices, generally a secular poem. So we're starting to see some move away from religion. So music will become increasingly secular. Now, if you go back to D2L, under classicism and humanism, these lectures, I will also list a couple of examples of Renaissance music as well as Baroque and Neoclassical, which you will get to later in this section.